talking about relationships this afternoon on Kababayan LA. It's very important because it's very alarming when we hear of people, couples divorcing after a few days of marriage or after a few months of marriage. And, you know, obviously a marriage is something beautiful. The coming together of two people, something very beautiful. But then at the same time, it's very difficult to sustain that coming together. And you mentioned earlier, there's no problem. Say, for example, you rush into a marriage and it's a mistake. You realize it's a mistake. You can't stop now because you can still do something to improve that relationship. But for people that are still dating, thinking about getting married, or people that are single out there, or divorced people who might want to try marriage or dating again, what are the questions to ask yourself?
One of the greatest things anyone in a relationship should do is, how do I inspire this person, or does this person inspire me? Mm-hmm. You know, how do they inspire me to become a better employee, to be a better father, a better, you know, son, to be better as a person overall. So
positive influence.
The positive influence is very, very critical. Mm-hmm. That is just critical, because the second question I ask is, does this person add to my life? Or do they take away from my life? Mm-hmm. You know, of the core of who I am, my personality. Do they improve who I am? Or do they take me to that place I don't want to go?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But when you're in that situation, can you be that logical, and can you be that sharp into, you know, separating things and figuring out things like that?
Well, for me, my advice for any person or couple who's considering marriage and going into this commitment is to actually do premarital counseling. Mm-hmm. Because I think it's really, again, I always go back to it. What is a relationship really about? It's really learning how to resolve differences, because no matter what, we will always be different from the other person. Okay. And then how do you, because the basic concept of a relationship or a marriage is that you have two adults who are deciding to come together and live as a couple. Mm-hmm. And that's where the problem begins, because they don't know how to define themselves as a couple. Right. They're still two single people going along, and they haven't resolved the differences. So when they go through this premarital counseling, part of what we do is say, okay, come up with, how do you resolve differences right now? Mm-hmm. And then how do you, like, come up with those basic beliefs that are different from each other.
Right. Speaking of that, you know, we all believe that there are no bad people. There are some people that are bad for us, though. That's the thing, right? So we just haven't maybe found our match or met our match. But then at the same time, there is such a thing as, you know, differences that can be worked out. Yes. But then there are such things as red flags that maybe the best thing to do is just walk away from it. What are the red flags?
Before I answer that, I just wanted to encourage and people, absolutely, I agree, 100% premarital counseling. Please, even if you've been married before, go through it again. Okay, now some of the red flags. One, how much do I have in common with this person? The most successful relationships I have witnessed through my life are the ones who have the most similarities. We've often heard of the saying, opposites attract. Mm-hmm. That's only for a season. After a while, opposites attack. Okay. Right? So it doesn't work. So the similarities, how much do you have? And then secondly, again, does this person add to my life? Mm-hmm. Right? Or do they take away? For example, if I'm an extrovert and you're an introvert, right, well, there's going to be some major challenges there, right? Or if I like opera and you like rap, mm-hmm, even in something as simple as music, mm-hmm, those things.
And I wanted to ask that before you say something, the similarities, can it be as superficial as, you know, your choices in music? Or what about, for example, the more important things that are same values, you have same goals in life, same ambition in life?
That's a very, very good point, Janelle. Very good point. Because, like I said, when we were talking earlier, that's a developmental process. You know, as the relationship develops, you first focus on those basics, which is, you know, what kind of music do you want? Do you like to go out to parties or whatever? And that becomes a basis for you to come together. Mm-hmm. But there is, and so you might not be the same, and you might be different with those. But again, how I see it is that they balance each other out. So for example, you have a person who's very much an extrovert and loves to go out and be with their friends. And then you have the husband or the partner or the wife who just wants to stay home. And the whole point of that is that they balance each other out. Mm-hmm. Because too much of one thing And that person can say to the other person, hey, you know, honey, why don't we just stay home for now? And then they start to rediscover or discover something new about themselves.
And that's what you were saying earlier,
Right.
adding to your life.
Absolutely.
Right? This is
Right.
the kind of life that, you know,
Right.
always going out, always partying, but then
Right.
there's this other person that mellows you out.
And that may not be apparent to you yet.
Mhm.
And it may only become apparent after you've come together.
Right.
So you can have those similarities because, yes, it makes it easier. But when you come to those very, very fundamental beliefs,
Right.
you might find out that this person who's very different from you is actually very the same, very similar.
Okay, let's talk about that fundamental beliefs. Religion, upbringing, culture,
Politics.
race, politics. We're going to be talking about that when we return on the show. Don't go away.